betcha, but I got a little story to tell about this one,
For decades, the glow of the grand stage lights hid shadows that never reached center stage. Between pedal steel solos and rhinestone smiles, country legends carried a secret louder than any amplifier. Children born far from the spotlight. Some were acknowledged only after bruising courtroom brawls. Others remain etched in barstool rumor. These sons and daughters grew up chasing echoes of a voice they heard only on the radio. Their stories cut through the mythology of down-home honesty and expose the fragile humans behind the hits. Tonight we trace that broken family tree, from heirs who won their surname in the Supreme Court to whispers that still haunt late-night tour buses. Confirmed or denied, each tale pries open Nashville's velvet curtain and asks whether truth matters more than the music. Hank Williams Sr. died in the back seat of a pale blue Cadillac on New Year's Day 1953, leaving unfinished songs in his briefcase and a pregnant lover back home in Montgomery. 5 days later, that baby, Antha Bell Jett, was delivered in a charity ward, wrapped in gossip and handed to foster parents who knew nothing of country royalty. The child spent her first years bouncing between caretakers, while radio stations canonized the father she never met. Meanwhile, the Williams estate minted dollars from your cheatin' heart, ignoring the possibility of another rightful heir. When Jett turned 20, a Birmingham lawyer mailed her a battered yellow envelope containing her original birth certificate. 2 words leapt off the page: Hiram Williams. Stunned, she set out on a decade-long quest to prove the signature matched the man the world knew as Hank. Courthouse clerks rolled their eyes, relatives slammed doors. Still, she gathered scraps: a midwife's affidavit, a handwritten note from Hank's mother confessing that her son had indeed fathered a little girl born after the Lord took him away. By 1985, Jett had built a case thick as a songbook and filed suit in a Montgomery probate court. The opposition was fierce. Half-siblings claimed imposture, publishers fretted over future royalties, and the estate's lawyers argued a dead man could not legally recognize a posthumous child. After 4 appeals and endless depositions, the fight rose to the Alabama Supreme Court, which ruled in her favor, then was overturned. Undeterred, Jett pushed forward again, and in 1990, a unanimous decision finally crowned her a legal Williams with full heir status. Victory was sweet but complicated. Reporters hounded her rehearsal halls, eager for a Cinderella headline. Old friends began pitching investment schemes the moment she stepped off stage. Yet Jett Williams kept singing, insisting her voice carried the only inheritance she truly wanted. The rest, she said, was just paperwork on the edge of a melody. Today, whenever she ends a set with "I saw the light," the applause doubles, as if every clap is her father finally keeping time beside her. There. Willie Nelson once joked that he never knew where the highway ended and home began, and nowhere is that truer than in the tale of Paula Carleen Nelson. In 1968, while Willie was still married to singer Shirley Colley, he wandered into a dim Houston bar and met Connie Kupka, a script girl with eyes the color of cedar smoke. Their affair flickered like neon, and 9 months later, a quiet nurse slipped a hospital bill beneath Shirley's front door. The invoice listed a newborn girl, father unknown. Paula entered the world at dawn, her first lullaby a scuffle between spouses. Shirley filed for divorce. Willie married Connie. The baby toured in a crib wedged between amplifiers. Paula's first memories smell of diesel and coffee, her lullabies improvised over after-show jams. By the time she was 5, she could name every roadside diner between Abilene and Albuquerque. But the secret chapter of her story arrived decades later in 2 folded pages from a DNA lab in Nashville. The test revealed another sister, Renee, born to a woman Willie knew briefly during the early 70s. Paula greeted the news with a shrug and a grin. In her world, siblings were as common as guitars, and blood mattered less than the stories you were willing to share. She rang Renee that night, traded childhood memories of green rooms and school truancy, and invited her to Austin for barbecue. Willie, now in his late 70s, simply smiled beneath that braid of braids and said, "The more the merrier, baby." The media spun it as a scandal delayed, but for the Nelson clan it felt like a ranch picnic that had been missing one chair. Yet cracks still show in the varnish of this feel-good legend. Willie's oldest children whisper about unpaid royalties. Paula's mother recalls nights spent alone while On the Road Again topped the charts. Even Willie admits regret, confessing in his memoir that his love life always sounded better in three-part harmony than it ever felt in real time. Still, on stage at Farm Aid, father and daughter trade solos, and the audience cheers like nothing bad ever happened. That roar, Paula says, is the only DNA test she needs. Johnny Cash called himself the walking contradiction, and nowhere does that label sting harder than in the rumor he carried to his grave. Between pills that raced his heart and prayers that slowed it, the man in black spent 15 years rolling from auditorium to auditorium with a Bible in one pocket and a flask in the other. Fans saw the arrests, the fires, the on-air apology to his first wife Vivian. What they never saw, but many backstage hands still swear by, is the face of a child who inherited his molten coal eyes. The alleged timeline circles 1961, a winter tour through Georgia honky-tonks when Cash was deep in his amphetamine spiral. A young waitress reportedly vanished from her shift after a week of driving the band's station wagon to after-parties. 9 months later, a boy was born in Macon bearing an unmistakable jawline and pitch-black eyes. Cash's road manager tried to track the story but hit closed doors and sealed adoption files. Some say hush money changed hands. Others claim Vivian found out and insisted on secrecy to protect their daughters. Decades passed. DNA technology advanced. No match emerged. In 2004, a middle-aged music teacher from Savannah surfaced online, hinting at a sealed birth record and a guitar signed, "To my boy, JC." Reporters pounced. But the teacher disappeared after one interview, citing family pressure. Cash's surviving children stay silent, citing lawyers and exhaustion. The official version from the estate is simple. No evidence, no comment, end of story. Yet the rumor lives because it feels possible. Cash survived rattlesnakes, prison shows, and a career meltdown. Surely he could survive one more secret. Producer Rick Rubin once asked him on tape if there were any children the public didn't know about. Cash paused long enough to turn a minute into an eternity, then answered, "None that I can swear to." That line hovers like cigarette smoke in an empty studio, daring anyone to wave it away. Until a birth certificate surfaces, the question remains the final chord of his legend. If country music ever birthed a Shakespearean tragedy, it wore the faces of George Jones and Tammy Wynette. He was the possum with a voice smoother than aged bourbon. She was the first lady whose heartbreak anthems sold in the millions. Together they scored chart-topping duets while their marriage cracked under the weight of tours, booze, and painkillers. Gossip magazines feasted on their fights, but a quieter whisper floated through Nashville diners. Somewhere out there, little Joneses and Wynettes were learning to walk without knowing whose footsteps they followed. The rumor about George begins in 1972, when the band bus pulled into Baton Rouge and Jones vanished for 2 days. A local singer later claimed she bore his daughter, citing a folded backstage pass and a child who could mimic George's fluid yodel before kindergarten. No paternity suit was filed. Her mother insisted the child deserved peace, not headlines. Old bandmates shrug today, saying the story is probably true. Yet every potential witness signed non-disclosure agreements back when gas cost 37 cents a gallon. Tammy's alleged secret predates fame. Relatives from Itawamba County insist that teenage Virginia Pugh gave birth before she ever adopted the stage name Wynette. A dark-haired baby, quick hush-up, adoption sealed tight. Tammy publicly denied it until her death, and her estate still waves away questions as tabloid nonsense. Even so, courthouse clerks in Tupelo recall a sudden sealing of adolescent medical records, and Wynette's high school diary, auctioned in 2007, contains cryptic lines about the child of June. What makes these stories endure is not proof, but the way they mirror the couple's own catalog. Their duets sold loyalty and forever love, Their nights delivered chaos and unfinished lullabies. Perhaps the answers lie buried with George in a granite mausoleum outside Nashville and with Tammy beneath a marble angel in Music City Cemetery. Or perhaps a stranger humming, "He stopped loving her today" will glance at a mirror and see the possum's eyes staring back. By the mid-70s, country music sprouted a new badge of rebellion called the Outlaw movement, and its poster boys treated conventional morality like a speed limit on an empty Texas road. Waylon Jennings led the charge, guitars blazing and powder in his beard. One night in Oklahoma City, after a show that rattled the rafters, a hotel clerk claims she saw Waylon carrying a newborn wrapped in a denim jacket to a waiting Cadillac. The child's mother, another singer on the bill, checked out before sunrise and disappeared west. Years later, Waylon's son, Shooter, chuckled on a podcast that his dad probably had more kids than guitars, then refused to elaborate. No birth record has surfaced, but the legend sticks as tight as nicotine on vinyl. Chris Christopherson floats in a gentler cloud, yet drags a similar rumor. During his Rhodes Scholar days, he juggled poetry, parachutes, and at least 2 London affairs. British tabloids still hunt for a middle-aged musician with Christopherson eyes who allegedly receives an annual birthday card signed simply K. Merle Haggard completes the Outlaw triad. Back in Bakersfield, before Okie from Muskogee turned him into a cultural lightning rod, Merle played smoky bars where marriage vows evaporated faster than spilled whiskey. One barmaid swore he fathered her son, pointing to a shared dimple and a letter promising support once the dust settles. The dust never settled, the letter vanished, and the boy grew up believing his father was a drifter killed in a bar fight. Today, genetic kits crowd holiday stockings, and every Christmas someone mails the Haggard estate another cheek swab demanding answers. Thus far, no match and no denial has been announced. These 3 stories illustrate the outlaw myth in miniature. Fans cheer the freedom but rarely count the collateral damage. In songs, the highway is liberation. In real life, it is a fast track away from accountability. Each rumor may stay forever unproven, yet every backstage whisper adds a verse to the grand American ballad of consequences postponed. Some scandals never break because silence is paid for in advance, and nowhere was the price higher than in the careers of Conway Twitty and Jerry Lee Lewis. Twitty, born Harold Jenkins, reinvented himself so thoroughly that even his accent sounded manufactured. Still, the past kept tugging at his sequined cuffs. In 1965, a Memphis attorney recorded a private settlement between Twitty and an unnamed woman described only as nightclub waitress minor. The file lists a lump sum payment, a deed to a modest house, and an ironclad non-disclosure clause threatened by forfeiture. No child was mentioned explicitly, yet county tax records show the woman moved in with an infant 3 weeks later. Twitty's friends insist he mailed birthday cards stamped with no return address for years, each containing a crisp $100 bill. When reporters pressed him, he answered with a smile so silky it slid right off the question. Jerry Lee Lewis took a rougher approach. Fresh off the scandal of marrying his 13-year-old cousin, the killer barreled through the 60s, leaving rumors like skid marks. One Mississippi paternity suit alleged he fathered twins with a backing singer and then served her papers declaring he was not responsible for accidents on the road. The case settled quietly after a single hearing, and the docket was sealed. Unlike Twitty, Lewis never bothered with velvet hush money. Fear was cheaper. What unites these tales is the industry's complicity. Managers booked extra hotel rooms, lawyers kept envelopes ready, and record labels preferred chart positions over child support ledgers. Fans, eager for outlaw thrills, applauded the music and skipped the footnotes. Somewhere between Heartbreak Ballad and Rockabilly Riot, real children learned to measure their worth in uncashed checks and unanswered questions. Ever. Rumors multiply faster than gold records, and the next generation inherited more than stage names. Hank Williams Jr. once joked that roadies called him Daddy because it was statistically safer. During his peak outlaw era in the 80s, He rode from venue to venue with a rotating cast of fans, bandmates, and B-movie actresses. At least 2 women later filed affidavits claiming he fathered their sons. The cases never reached court. Private settlements evaporated behind layers of LLCs. David Allen Coe, ever the provocateur, took pride in the gossip. Porter Wagoner, the rhinestone trailblazer who mentored Dolly Parton, also deserves a footnote. Porter's backstage charm was legendary, and insiders swear at least one child carries his piercing blue eyes and trademark pompadour. The timing lines up with the peak of the Porter and Dolly show, yet no document has surfaced. In each of these stories, DNA kits lurk like loaded pistols in bedside drawers. The technology exists, but consent is another matter. A grown son might refuse to swap saliva, preferring anonymity to a sudden inheritance. A mother may protect a decades-old promise of secrecy. Meanwhile, the music keeps spinning and audiences line dance to songs about family values without noticing the irony. The unclaimed heirs move through life half in shadow, half in spotlight glare, always one cheek swab away from rewriting Billboard history. They are living proof that a legacy is never as simple as a last name, and that every chorus about honesty risks being drowned out by a heartbeat no stage mic can capture. Yet even as the record needles drop and smartphones shuffle playlists, the truth keeps knocking. Every new biography, every dusty shoebox of photographs, every distant cousin uploading raw data to a genealogy site threatens to blow open another locked chapter. The reckoning may arrive slowly, but country music's archives are not flame-proof. Tape degrades, but memories don't. Somewhere a forgotten cassette holds an off-the-cuff confession. Somewhere else a stagehand's diary spells out a surname in smudged ink. When those artifacts surface, the genre will have to decide whether to hush the chorus or finally let it harmonize with the times. In every steel guitar cry, there lurks a human voice asking to be heard, and the tales you have just followed remind us how often that request goes unanswered. We met Jet Williams, who clawed her way through probate court to earn a surname the world had already sung 1,000 times. We watched Paula Nelson fold another sister into the family like a final chord change nobody expected. We stared into Johnny Cash's pause and wondered whether denial or confession weighed heavier on his soul. We sifted Baton Rouge rumors, outlaw boasts, hush money ledgers, and sealed dockets, tracing a dotted bloodline through roadhouses and radio towers. What emerges is a pattern as old as the train beat. Artists who write truths they struggle to live, industries that value hits over honesty, and children forced to decide whether silence is safer than justice. Technology promises resolution, yet every cheek swab opens as many wounds as it heals. Some heirs want only a story, others a royalty check, still others have no wish to swap anonymity for headlines. Meanwhile, fans stream the classics, chanting family values between verses about jail time, cheating, and regret. The contradiction is the point. Country music was built on it, thrives on it, and cannot escape it. The next time a fiddler drags a note across your memories, consider the unseen audience. Court clerks, half-siblings, and backstage infants tapping their feet in the dark. Perhaps they will step into the light, perhaps the spotlight will burn too hot. Either way, the music keeps playing and secrets keep humming along in the key of human frailty. What remains is the question Hank, Willie, and every wandering troubadour must face. Does truth matter more than the song? Or is the song the only truth we ever really get? If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.